The first thing Owen Pierce noticed about Black Alder was that nobody locked their doors. Not the homes, not the church, not even the old general store. Every door stood slightly open, as though the entire village expected someone to enter or leave. The second thing he noticed was the giant skeleton. Not human, not exactly. A framework of enormous oak beams rose nearly 60 feet above the village square. Its arms stretched toward the gray autumn sky. Its head hadn't been built yet. Workers climbed wooden scaffolding, tying fresh branches into place while children carried bundles of carved timber through the streets. No one smiled. No one celebrated. Despite the colorful harvest decorations, the atmosphere felt more like preparation for a funeral. Owen parked beside the old town hall. As an investigative journalist, he'd covered strange traditions across the country. Midwinter bonfires, silent funerals, abandoned mining towns that still rang church bells every Sunday. But nothing had prepared him for Black Alder. An elderly woman sweeping fallen leaves paused beside him. "You came for the raising." "I came to write about the festival." Her smile faded. "We don't call it a festival." "What do you call it?" She looked toward the unfinished wooden giant. "The remembering." Before Owen could ask another question, she walked away. The innkeeper greeted him politely. His name was Walter Graves, the oldest resident in town. Perhaps 80, perhaps older. His age was difficult to judge. Like everyone else, he spoke softly, never laughed, never hurried. Over dinner, Owen asked the obvious question. "So who's the wooden figure supposed to be?" Every conversation inside the dining room stopped. Forks froze. Chairs creaked. Nobody looked at Owen. Instead, everyone stared at Walter. The old innkeeper slowly placed down his spoon. "We don't ask that." "Why not?" "Because eventually," Walter whispered, "it answers." Nobody spoke for the rest of the meal. Later that night, unable to sleep, Owen wandered toward the village square. Workers still surrounded the enormous wooden frame despite the late hour. No machinery, no floodlights, only lanterns. Hammering echoed softly through the darkness. Dozens of villagers quietly attached narrow wooden strips to the giant's body. Each strip looked hand-carved, covered with writing. Owen approached one lying on a nearby table. A single name had been carved into it. Elias Turner. Nothing else. Just a name. He picked it up. Immediately, a young carpenter snatched it from his hand. "You shouldn't touch those." "What are they?" The carpenter hesitated, then quietly answered, "Memories." The strip was carried to the giant, carefully nailed into its chest. The following morning, Owen visited the cemetery. Every gravestone looked unusually clean. Fresh flowers stood beside nearly every grave. He began copying names into his notebook, curious whether they matched the wooden carvings. Halfway through the cemetery, he stopped. The newest grave had no name, only dates. 1989 to 2026. Blank stone. Fresh soil. He photographed it. Later, when he reviewed the image, the dates remained. The space where the name should have been looked blurred, as though the camera had refused to focus. That afternoon, children sat beneath an old maple tree carving hundreds of thin wooden strips. Each child worked silently. An elderly teacher walked between them, correcting their handwriting. Owen knelt beside one little girl. "What are you making?" "Names." "Whose names?" She shrugged. "The ones we still have." Another child looked up. "Some disappear." The teacher quickly interrupted. "Back to work." That evening, the giant gained its head. The entire village gathered silently. No speeches, no music, no applause. The enormous face had no features, only smooth unfinished wood. Blank. Waiting. At sunset, Walter invited Owen to the church. "I'd like to show you something." The church contained no stained glass windows, no paintings, no statues, only shelves. Thousands upon thousands of leather-bound books. Every identical size. Every identical color. Each spine displayed a single year. On and on. Until the current year. Walter removed the volume labeled 2025. He opened it. Every page contained names. Births. Deaths. Marriages. Harvest records. School attendance. Every event from the previous year. Perfectly documented. What am I looking at? Our memory. Walter replied. Every village keeps records. Not like this. Walter smiled faintly. No. He handed Owen the book. Read the last page. The final entry contained only one sentence, written in different handwriting from the rest. The remembering was successful. Nothing else. No explanation. No signature. That night, Owen dreamed of the unfinished wooden giant. It stood alone in an endless forest, slowly turning its head toward him. Though it still had no face, he somehow knew it was smiling. He woke suddenly. Someone had whispered directly beside his bed. Owen. The room was empty. The following morning, he found muddy footprints outside his window, leading away from the inn, not toward it, following them into the woods. He discovered hundreds of old wooden name strips hanging from tree branches, weathered, cracked, covered with moss. Each carried a single carved name. Some were over a century old. Others looked freshly cut. One strip caught his attention. It had fallen onto the ground. He brushed away damp leaves. The carving read, Owen Pierce. His heart stopped. Impossible. He had arrived only 2 days earlier. He looked around. No one. Only the silent forest. The wind lifted the wooden strip slightly. It gently tapped against another hanging nearby. Owen read the second name. His editor. Then another. His younger sister. Another. His childhood teacher. People from completely different cities. Different states. Different lives. Someone behind him quietly asked, Have you found yours? Owen spun around. Walter stood among the trees holding an old lantern. You knew this was here. Walter nodded. We all do. Who carved my name? I don't know. You expect me to believe that? Walter stepped closer. His expression wasn't threatening. It was sympathetic. I've been waiting for you. Before Owen could answer, a church bell rang once. Every bird in the forest fell silent. Walter looked frightened for the first time. We have to leave. Why? The giant, he whispered, has started listening. That evening, the entire village gathered around the towering wooden figure. Hundreds of lanterns illuminated its unfinished face. One by one, villagers approached carrying freshly carved name strips. Each nailed another name somewhere onto its body. Arms, chest, legs, back. Thousands of names. Thousands of memories. Finally, Walter climbed the scaffolding alone. He carried only one wooden strip. He carefully nailed it where the giant's heart should be. The moment the hammer struck, a deep wooden groan echoed through the square. Not from the scaffolding. Not from the wind. From inside the giant. Its enormous head tilted almost imperceptibly. Just enough that Owen noticed. Nobody else reacted. As though they expected it. Then, without carving tools, without paint, without human hands, letters slowly began appearing across the smooth wooden forehead, as though something beneath the timber was writing from inside. One letter at a time. O-W-E-N. The entire village slowly turned and looked directly at him. The square remained perfectly silent. Hundreds of villagers stared at Owen. Not with anger, not with surprise, with recognition. As though they had finally found someone they had been expecting for years. The giant's forehead finished carving the final letter. Owen. The wood stopped moving. The village elder slowly knelt. One by one, everyone else did the same. Children, teachers, carpenters, even Walter. Only Owen remained standing. What is this? Nobody answered. The villagers simply lowered their heads. Not toward Owen. Toward the giant. Walter finally stood. His voice trembled. "It knows your name now." "What knows?" Walter looked at the enormous figure. "We don't." "It does." The crowd quietly dispersed. No celebration. No explanation. Only silence. Unable to sleep, Owen returned to the square after midnight. The unfinished giant towered over the empty village. Moonlight reflected across thousands of wooden name strips nailed into its body. The wind moved gently through its woven branches. Then, he heard breathing. Slow, heavy, coming from inside the wooden chest. He stepped closer. One carved name strip suddenly cracked. It fell onto the ground. The name written on it read, Margaret Hill. At that exact moment, a nearby house door opened. An elderly woman wandered into the street looking confused. She approached Owen. "Excuse me. Have you seen my husband?" "I don't know him." She frowned. "I." Her expression slowly changed. "I can't remember his name." Morning spread panic through Black Alder. Margaret Hill's house contained hundreds of family photographs. In every one, her husband had disappeared. Not removed. Never there. Picture frames now showed Margaret standing alone at weddings. Standing alone beside a Christmas tree. Standing alone outside the church. Every memory had quietly rewritten itself. The cemetery changed too. One gravestone had vanished completely. Fresh grass covered the place where it once stood. Only Owen remembered seeing it yesterday. Everyone else insisted nothing had changed. Walter finally confessed. "It begins with names." What begins? The remembering. He unlocked the oldest room beneath the church. Stone stairs descended into darkness. Far below, rows of enormous wooden masks lined the walls. Hundreds of them, each carved with a different face, each impossibly lifelike, each labeled with a year. "These," Walter whispered, "are the keepers." Owen ran his fingers across one weathered mask. Its features looked familiar. Too familiar. He stopped. The mask resembled the blank gravestone. Not because he remembered the man. Because he suddenly couldn't. The face itself erased the memory. Walter opened another ancient ledger. Its first entry dated back nearly 400 years. The handwriting changed every generation. But one sentence appeared again. And again. And again. The village survives because one life is remembered differently. Owen frowned. "I don't understand." Walter closed the book. "You think the giant takes people. It doesn't. It exchanges them." He spread faded family photographs across the table. The same village. The same square. Different centuries. Each photograph included the enormous wooden figure. Except, the face changed every year. Every generation. Every festival. It always resembled someone who no longer existed. "Who are they?" Walter looked away. "We don't know." "You just said." "We remember the figure." He whispered. "We forget the person." That afternoon, Owen tried leaving Black Alder. His car refused to start. He borrowed a truck. The engine died at the edge of town. He walked. Every road curved back toward the village. Maps became useless. GPS spun endlessly. By sunset, he found himself standing once again beneath the giant. Its face had changed. Not dramatically. Subtly. The wooden jaw looked slightly more human. The nose narrower. The eyes, almost familiar. That night, Owen woke to knocking. Not at his door. Inside the walls. Soft. Rhythmic. Tap. 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 Like carving tools. He searched every room. Nothing. Until he noticed tiny wood shavings beneath his bed. Fresh. Golden. Warm. Morning brought another impossible discovery. His driver's license had changed. The photograph remained. The name did not. It now read, unknown. His passport, unknown. Bank card, unknown. Journalist credentials, blank. He called his editor. "David, listen carefully." A pause. I'm sorry. The editor replied. Who is this? Owen. I don't employ anyone named Owen. The call disconnected. Desperate, he opened his notebook. Every interview, every photograph, every recording from Black Alder remained. Except, his own name had disappeared from every page, as though someone had erased only those letters. Walter found him sitting alone in the square. It's almost over. What do you mean? The giant doesn't steal memories. It gives them somewhere else. Sunset arrived. The final night. Every villager gathered carrying lanterns. No music. No speeches. Only quiet footsteps. The elder approached the giant holding a wooden hammer. He gently struck its chest once. The sound echoed across the valley. Deep. Hollow. Ancient. The giant opened its eyes. Not dramatically. Simply. Two dark knots in the wood slowly blinked. Nobody screamed. Children smiled. The villagers bowed. The enormous head turned toward Owen. For the first time, it spoke. Its voice sounded like thousands of trees swaying together. Owen Pierce. You are remembered. The giant slowly raised one wooden hand. Every name strip attached to its body began trembling. Thousands of carved names. Thousands of forgotten lives. They all whispered together. Not loudly. Softly. Like leaves moving in the wind. The whispers became names. Thousands of names. People. Families. Travelers. Generations. Every person the village had ever surrendered. They weren't gone. They existed. Inside the giant. Still remembered. Still alive. Just differently. Walter stepped beside Owen. We thought it was a curse. It isn't. Walter smiled sadly. No. It's an agreement. He pointed beyond the village. Mist rolled across distant mountains. Within the fog, other enormous wooden figures slowly emerged. One. Then another. Then dozens more. Standing silently on distant ridges. Watching. Every valley had one. Every forgotten village. Every mountain pass. Each carried countless names. Walter whispered, they remember us. So the world doesn't have to. The giant lowered its hand. A warm breeze swept across the square. Every villager smiled peacefully. One little girl approached Owen. She looked puzzled. Excuse me. Are you visiting? Owen nodded slowly. I think so. My name is Emma. She held out a tiny wooden strip. Could you help me? He looked down. The strip was blank. What should I carve? Emma smiled innocently. I don't know. They said. You'd remember. Owen looked toward the giant. Its wooden face, now perfectly matched his own. Not an older version. Not a carved likeness. Exactly him. Every line. Every expression. Every scar. The villagers gathered around it. Children laughed. Families embraced. Someone pointed upward. Look. Carved into the giant's chest. Thousands of names slowly shifted. Like living letters. Making room. For one more. Owen felt his own memories beginning to blur. His childhood. His parents. His career. His apartment. Faces dissolved like fog. One memory remained perfectly clear. The village. The giant. The names. The last thing he remembered was carving 6 letters into the wooden strip. Owen. He gently nailed it to the giant's heart. The moment the hammer struck, every memory returned. Not to him. To the village. Children cheered. Walter smiled through tears. We remember you. 1 year later, a travel blogger stopped in Black Alder while photographing mountain villages. He noticed the enormous wooden figure standing proudly in the square. What a remarkable sculpture. He said, who's it supposed to be? The villagers laughed kindly. That's not a sculpture. An old man pointed toward the smiling wooden face. That's Owen Pierce. He has protected Black Alder for generations. The blogger frowned. I can't seem to remember where I parked my car. The old man smiled. You'll remember. Eventually. Behind them, far too quietly for anyone else to notice, the wooden giant blinked. Thanks for watching. Follow Story Hub Central for more exciting stories.